Day number 3 of the Origin series, and I'm glad to be back. We started off with 370 teams at the start of the month, and we whittled them down to just 3 in each group. And if you hadn't noticed as well, I've got some new faces on the desk. We're going to have a dedicated analyst desk for the last 2 days. And to kick things off, I'm joined by Hell's Devil and Yuko. Yuko, I appreciate you're a little bit further ahead in time than we are. It's a little bit late for you, so thank you so much for joining us.
You know what? It's honestly, I feel honored to have me here. And even though it's almost 12 midnight here in my country, I am looking forward to the matches we will be having today.
And Hells, you're a little bit closer to home, so I also appreciate you being here, but it's not as much of a tall order as it is for Yuko.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very exciting for me to be here right now on the desk for the first time. You know, we're looking forward to the games and looking forward to everything.
Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to coming up tonight. And if you're tuning in for the first time, this is the Wild Rift Origin series. We're obviously playing Wild Rift. So we spoke to a couple of the pros about why you should be playing the game too.
Only fools hesitate.
Wild Rift is super special. The first time I've played in Wild Rift was on the 10th anniversary in London. And since then, I've hyped all the way. I think Wild Rift is super cool and mobile esports is growing, and that's what makes Wild Rift so special.
Wild Rift is a game that's extremely accessible for everyone. It's a game that you can play with friends and family even.
So it's a lot cooler for me to be able to play these faster paced games. You have to make a lot more important decisions in a much shorter amount of time.
I love Wild Rift. When I play first time Wild Rift, I had the sensation I had 10 years ago when I discovered League of Legends. I don't know, just I like the game.
After playing PC League for 9 years, it's good to have a nice fresh feel with Wild Rift, being able to, play all the champions again, but on a smaller device. It's a lot of fun.
The games are, I think, on average 15 to 20 minutes, so you can just really play it in a 20-minute break in work, or when you're in school and reset, you can just go a quick game of Wild Rift.
I think the community, we have a lot of banter, memes going around. When you're playing at the highest ranks, it's usually the same 50, 100 players you meet every single game. So we know each other well, and it's a lot of fun being in the community. All the players are just sitting in chat rooms and flaming each other in a nice way, I would say.
My teammates is great. I'm happy to play with them.
It's definitely the greatest game if you want to stick together, because you can play this game 10 years just like League of Legends and not get bored.
The future of Wild Rift definitely looking bright. Obviously, with all the champions coming out as well, it's definitely looking bright for the future.
You're living in the past if you don't play Wild Rift. Let's go!
I don't know what it is about Coldstar, but he just seems to steal the show every bit of content he's in. The Unicorns of Love, Baron Laner. We're probably going to hear more about him tomorrow because he's not going to be playing today, but that's a little spoiler for you. We'll start taking a look at the bracket though, so you can understand why. Let's pull up lower bracket Group A, see what's going on here. And I think the big story, Hells, is what's happened with Game Lord, but also what the hell is going on with Team Queso.
And Team Queso, these guys have been playing phenomenally in their game. They won every single game except for the Tribe game, of course, but they put up a really good fight against Tribe. They almost won against Tribe, so we're definitely expecting a lot from them. And for Game Lord, Cream Real Betis did a 2-0 sweep. So this is definitely going to be an amazing matchup to watch.
Yeah, that's all coming up later, but let's take a look at the upper bracket, see who's waiting in the grand final for them. It's already mentioned, Tribe Gaming. They've had their first pound of flesh from Team Queso. They're probably going to get another more if it goes the way of this team. But moving over to Group B, Yuko, Trovo Nova was a team that was on everyone's lips moving into this tournament. It's one of the ones to look out for in Group B. And they found themselves in the lower bracket. They've got a match to win today, but it's not as clear as day whether they will make it back to that grand final.
You know what? That is going to be the question, and that's probably why the second series for the day is going to be my favorite. Trovo Nova, you said this. They definitely have a lot of eyes on them, and for a specific player, I'm actually looking forward to Grizzly because I heard that this player can play all, if not a lot of support. So I'm really looking forward to all of those cheese picks, those surprise picks. But I also would love to see them run more of this Olaf lineup.
And let's see who's waiting in the grand final for them as we take a look at the upper bracket. Unicorns of Love, you've already met their Baron laner, Coldstar, in that content piece. They're not going to be playing today. They're going to be keeping an eye on the bracket and see who they'll go up against tomorrow in the grand final. And last but not least, let's take a look at Group C. You see Cut Esports versus Off Meta. That's going to be our match later today. But for Cut Esports and Off Meta, these are two teams that have gone up against the team that's waiting for them in the grand final, Sunlight Team, and not posed so well against them, Hells.
Yeah, they both actually lost against them. And Off Meta actually lost in 8 minutes in the second game. Like, Sunlight Team is absolutely the best team in this bracket right now. So we're going to have to see which one of these two, Off Meta or Cut Esports, is going to come on top and see if they can actually face off to Sunlight Team.
So there you have it. That's going to be all of the brackets. And we'll do the upper bracket just to make sure you're fully informed. Sunlight Team, as we mentioned, they're in the grand final tomorrow, waiting to find out their opponent. Yesterday, though, we had some fantastic games. We went through all of these upper bracket finals, and we talked a little bit about some of the results we saw. But I want to focus really on that Trovo Nova Unicorns of Love series first, Yuko, because that was really something that people weren't expecting. I think there was a lot of powerful teams in Group B. To see these two meet in the upper bracket and have this back and forth with who's going to pick the Vayne in Game 2 and Game 3, it's all an absolute... there's a bit of a cluster going on there, sometimes a bit of a circus fiasco, if you will. So I was wondering what your thoughts were on that game yesterday, Yuko.
All right, so if I were to summarize my thoughts, it would be those upsets made me feel upset, but in the most good way possible. Because, you know, if you watch a live stream, you just can't wait to see what is going to happen next. And yeah, it is going to be a back and forth between who is going to be the better ADC, which jungler will be able to go with the invades. And I just really love how both teams just went and added their own specific flavor towards their own lineup. And I just cannot take my eyes off of. If you're looking at the highlights right now, though, those are 2 times that Pantheon was able to steal the Baron. And for all of these teams, just looking forward to seeing more from them. And you know what? I'm okay with being upset because it just adds more of this circus kind of feeling here in the Origin series.
Yeah, the Apollo Baron steals back to back. It caused a visibly aged Scoundrel, I feel, seeing that happen back to back. But the Tribe Queso game, this was absolutely fantastic. I loved watching Leon really have his champion pool challenged in that series and still being able to persevere with the Lee Sin. I know you've been pretty excited about that matchup as well, Hells.
Definitely. And I want to pay attention to another thing about these teams, though, which is the jungler of Team Queso, Andre. He was able to steal like 4 or 5 dragons during those series, which was absolutely amazing during those team fights. And Leon and Doom are definitely the duo that we're looking forward to in Tribe Gaming, because they always seem to excel in that Baron lane jungle combination. So we're going to have to see how they're going to do that tomorrow as well. But first, of course, if Team Queso can make it against Cream Real Betis.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a tall order. And you're already kind of teasing the fixtures we've got going on today. I know we've mentioned it back and forth, but we'll bring the schedule up for you shortly when we get out of the backside of this replay package. But our first match is really going to be interesting because it is Group C lower bracket final. It's Cut Esports going up against Off Meta. And we actually had a chance to speak to some of these teams about their matchups, and we'll be able to show you some content afterwards. But there you go, Cut versus Off Meta is our first match of the day. Then we'll move into the Group B lower bracket final, which is Trovo Nova versus Mortal Shot. And we're going to close it out with Team Queso versus Cream Real Betis, which is going to be a fantastic matchup to close things out. Out of those matches, who are we really looking towards? Like, what's your star match? The match to watch for this week? The match to watch for this day, Hells?
Cream Real and Team Queso.
Yeah.
By far.
Easy? And for you, Yuka?
Yeah.
You know what? Hells already said game number 3 or series number 3. I'm still gonna stick to Trovo Nova versus Mortal Shot right here. I'm just looking forward to what is gonna happen in that series. And I guess my top 2 would be the series number 3.
Right then. Well, let's bring it back to game number 1. We've had a chance to speak to a couple of the players about the lower bracket final in Group C. Here's what they had to say.
Actually, last game was so unlucky. Like, we lost a lot of Barons, and it was totally unlucky for us. Yes, I think we have played better we played good from the start from the tournament. But right now, we didn't play so bad, but actually, we're trying to like enhance what are we trying to do next game.
Herald will be secured actually by the Corki. That's 69 Securing it. He's in the pit taking a 1v1 versus Mads as the rest of the team is now getting pushed away from the jungle. That's Kurt losing an extra 3 players right there and only one going down. That's Waleed.
It's been fun. It's really very nice to be in a team and fighting together and playing against each other as teams. It's so much fun and different than the feeling of the solo queue games. After beating GK, we are really like, we have good mentality, you know, that we can do it. So as long as we have this good mentality, I think we can do it and we will do it. Like, yeah, we have never lost a game except against Sunlight. So we should be scared because we are coming and we want revenge from Sunlight. So we will not leave without a revenge. So we should be worried.
Vid Game Donkey there calling out Sunlight team, saying that, hey, we want revenge and we're going to get it before the tournament is up. They have got a bit of a way to go, though, if they are going to, first of all, get to that grand final and ultimately end up getting the win. So I want to talk about something that happened yesterday with the team. Hells, there's been a lot of reliance here from Off Meta around a particular couple of picks. The Varus and the Seraphine seem to be something they relied on yesterday.
Definitely, this has been their go-to duo. This has been their go-to picks because of the CC that they can provide, the damage, the combo. They have won almost every single game with the Varus Seraphim, so we're kind of expecting them to do it again today.
Yeah, and Yuko, another pick they're relying quite heavily on is also the Pantheon. We've seen that come out a few times from them.
Right. Okay. So I did not expect to see Pantheon this much into the Origin series, but I know he is quite viable. So I was not expecting that he would be this good, but I guess it just all falls down to timing. And when I talk about timing, I meant not just those steals, but also in those times when, example, you're going to have an Ahri up against you, you can just stop or negate all the damage that you can get, and then you're going to have a hard re-engage and then hopefully take your opponent down.
Okay, I'm going to really hold you both over the coals right now, and I'm going to force you to give me some kind of prediction. Hells, who do you think is taking this lower bracket final?
It's hard to decide, but I'm going to have to go with the Off Meta. Well, actually, no, Cut Esports. If they can counter the Varus Seraphim, they can win.
All right, and for you, Yuko?
You know what? I was about to say Off Meta, but looks like, I'm going to go to Cut Esports as well because I would love rather to see more drafts and more creativity from their team.
All right, it seems like Cut Esports have the vote of confidence, but without further ado, let's get into game number 1. Here's a reminder of the rosters for you for Cut Esports and Off Meta. Group C was always going to be one of these groups of teams that we weren't going to be that familiar with coming into the Origin series. And that's why it's so important to extend it beyond the breadth of Europe and bring in some of these newer talents. I know we had a quick chat with the manager for Off Meta before the show started, and they were saying it's really important and they feel really honored to actually be a part of the Origin series and be included, because typically that region is often overlooked, and we're starting to see the starts of some great careers for these players. Looking across the roster, I know we already spoke a bit about how Apollo was a bit of a monster so far with the steals from that region on the Pantheon. It might have been misfortune from their opponents, but we already have a name that we can recognize. When we look across the two rosters, someone who stands out to me is 6ix9ine. They played a very comfortable mid lane in the series yesterday. They didn't ultimately win, but I have a lot of confidence about them moving into this series. Yuko, I was wondering if there's any players or any champions we should be looking out for in this first game.
All right, so you mentioned about the mid lane. So off the bat, I already have some champions in my head. Ziggs, Ahri, all of those bursty champions that towards the late game can be a huge problem, but at the same time has so much control in the early game.
And for Hells, generally looking at the game right now, what are some strong picks that these two teams should be looking to pick up in their draft if they want to draft themselves for success?
So Off Meta really relies on CC comps. As I said, Seraphim, Varus, Galio, Pantheon, all these picks. So I want to see an Olaf.
Olaf picks coming in there. So yeah, obviously the Ragnarok can go ahead and negate the CC.
Yes.
I'm gonna be here and just give my little 50 filter for everyone and just make sure that the person who's never played Wild Rift, never played League of Legends, understands what's going on here, because Ragnarok is an ultimate ability for Olaf as a champion that will enable them to break all CC, but it does come at the cost of armor and magic resist, which means they're a little bit squishy. You can take them down a little bit faster. So Olaf is going to be a tool to be able to take themselves outside of the realms of CC. Hells, a couple of picks that we may be looking for in the bottom lane, because we often see mid laners end up down there in the duo lane, as well as the AD carries. Something that's been touted a lot by Scoundrel is the Seraphine and the Sona combination. And we know Seraphine is already being picked by off meta. They haven't really shown the Seraphine Sona combo, but is that something you feel that may come out in this series?
We have seen some success with it in EU especially, but I don't really know. But I prefer to have an actual ADC in the games, but we might get surprised by them, but we'll see. I really want to see those surprises, as you mentioned. They have to pick something that's not normal to surprise the enemy. So Seraphim Sona, very interesting to see.
And Yuko, I'm wondering if you can bring us any insight from the SEA region. That's kind of your home turf, your speciality. What's being played in SEA that you feel Europe could actually start stealing and adopting for themselves?
All right, so I'm gonna have to say we have been picking up Nami as support. Also, you mentioned about the Sona Seraphine combo. There is a team here in SEA that does run that composition, and their tactic is they would fight or they would CC while they're actually taking a step back. So you have the crescendo, you also have the movement speed, you have the extra attack speed, you also have the beat drop and the encore, just to keep your opponents at bay. But you actually have the mid laner, could be maybe a Ziggs, could even be a Zed, just to burst down the other members. So it's all about misdirection if you're gonna use this very squishy combo.
And one of the things that we've seen a lot of in the Origin series, and in fact competitive Wild Rift as well, is that a lot of the action is going to be based around the objectives on the map, mainly the dragon. So when we talk about major team fights and major swings in where the state of the game is, a lot of it revolves around the dragons. Hells, what are some things some teams can do to set up for success around the dragon? Maybe is it to get lane control, get some additional vision in the pit? What are the tools to success for these teams?
So the thing that I see a lot of teams do, they take losing fights at the dragon. So what you can do instead, you can just take the top lane turret instead, which we have seen from some teams, but not enough in my opinion. This is what I want to see more, teams taking that top lane turret and just giving away the dragon in a losing matchup. Because we've seen many teams already throw games completely, just by completely losing the first fight at the dragon while they were already losing and just letting it snowball into victory for the enemy team.
All right, then. Well, let's jump into pick and ban, you two. You can finally see what's going to be drawn onto the Rift for our first game of the series. And let's see if any of your wishes are going to be fulfilled.
Yes.
Hopefully they will. So, all right, this is going to be the pick and ban for game number 1. Still going to be a best of 3. So, we talked about the Pantheon. Looks like Cut Esports, they just stomped us with a big NO. No Pantheon for this game number 1.
Definitely interesting to see a Pantheon ban. He is not really a top tier pick. It really seems like a target ban to me. They're afraid of the Pantheon from off meta.
Yep, and off meta, they do answer that with a Gragas. So if I were to have my hierarchy in the Dragon lanes, I would put Gragas first and then Garen. I know that may raise a lot of questions, but I just love Garen coming in with the silences as a second. And we talked about good supports, strong supports in the early game. Braum is definitely up there with the concussive blows, but Cut Esports, they said no Pantheon, no Braum.
I really like the Braum ban because off meta had a lot of success with that Braum pick. They actually picked Braum quite often and they won a lot of games on the Braum. So it's a really good ban from Cut Esports.
Yep, indeed. So the last ban for the side of off meta is going to be Lee Sin. Okay, I heard Xcoundra talk about this. If you're a good Lee Sin player, one good ultimate will always be worth it. You can isolate someone, you can save your teammate, or you can just deliver someone and your team can just finish off the kill.
Lee Sin is just a very solid pick in the jungle. And as we saw from Leon a few days ago, it's also good in the Baron lane. So it's really good to ban out if you cannot really play it well in your own team. So we can see an Akali pick from Cut Esports as your first pick. I don't really like it as a first pick because it can get countered. As you can see, the Varus and the Malphite, these are both champions, which answers perfectly into the Akali. Malphite obviously very tanky, Varus with his ultimate that can completely stomp the Akali. This is already looking pretty good for off meta.
And this is something that we need to be conscious of, right, though? Because off meta, they're on comfort right now. Varus, they could lock in the Seraphine later down the line. That's their combo.
They got the
Definitely.
they might get the Seraphim Varus right here.
And looks like Cut Esports, they did pick up this Xayah. And hey, I talked about this champion earlier. I'm so happy they
got
picked this
it.
up. This is gonna be a Nami.
So are we gonna see the Seraphim here? That's what I'm very interested in. I am definitely expecting a Seraphim pick. It would be a really... They actually go for the Alistar for a more aggressive comp. They have an Alistar and a Malphite. So a pick to look out for is Yasuo right here. They could go for the AP Varus and then pick up a Yasuo with the combination of Alistar and Malphite. So let's see if they're gonna do that.
To be fair, we have been seeing a good run for the AP Varus, and I won't be surprised if we'll be seeing a Yasuo, but looks like that is going to be a Kha'Zix pickup. So Kha'Zix, he is mostly in charge of just going with the cleanups. Maybe he could jump in right after Varus pops in with the Chain of Corruption and maybe even the Piercing Arrow. And of course, Cut Esports, they now showed us their next pick, which is going to be an Evelynn.
Yeah, I really like the draft from Off Meta here. This is really good because the Kha'Zix can pick out those champions. As you can see, Cut Esports has a very squishy composition, but they just answered me with the Garen pick, which is a really, really nice pick into that comp just to be able to frontline for the team. Because they have 4 squishy targets, they definitely needed that frontline. So let's see what Off Meta is going to respond to that.
No, I'm still... Oh, okay.
Seraphim.
We talked about a Yasuo, but you know, our guts were right. Rather, that is the a Seraphim Varus at the Dragon Lane. Let's see how far will this combo take us. Because if you're gonna look at the early game, Xayah has a lot of roots in the early game. You also have the Aqua Prism that can be popped by Nami anytime soon. Can stop Varus or Seraphim from actually going near them.
All right, Yuko, thanks so much for your insight. Let's throw it over to our casters, TJ and Xscoundrel, to take you through the first game.
Thank you very much, Trid. I'm super excited, Xscoundrel, because we saw it. I spent an entire week casting over in Southeast Asia, watching the Nami Xayah composition chew things up, and here it is!
Yeah, it's definitely a very lane-dominant combo. The thing about Nami is that she's generally got a very strong laning presence compared to many other supports, and Xayah is a very aggressive AD carry. So you kind of like empower those Xayah basic attacks with your Tidecrawler's Blessing, and that allows Xayah to set those feathers up and look for picks with the Blade Caller. It's a very aggressive lane combo. Interestingly enough, you know, as we get towards those teamfight situations, it's also got a lot of value versus delaying the engage from the Varus. It kind of can stop that Malphite or stop the team following up on the Malphite ultimate as well. So yeah, I like the idea of Nami. I actually play a lot of Nami in solo queue as well, so I do understand the value of this pick in certain compositions.
I always forget until we cast together that we're both like the worst support mains who just love abusing these awful picks.
I mean,
it's always fun.
I don't think Nami's like categorically OP. I think Nami is actually kind of like on the weaker end of the general supports, but in certain compositions, especially paired up with certain AD carries, she gets a lot of value.
In solo queue play, Nami not great. If you have a Bud though that you can convince to play Xayah, you go, no, just trust me, I'm gonna boost your auto attacks. It's gonna be gross. Very fun. Let's talk a little bit about the other side of this as well, over on the off-meta side. Speaking of things being played off-meta, it is Seraphine mid. It's been a while since I've seen that. Do you want to talk about it briefly?
It's relatively popular. I'd say most people prefer to play Seraphine in competitive anyway. Seraphine in the AD carry position, or the bot lane position, or in mid. She does require gold to be good. I think at the end of the day, a lot of people like to play like a heavy AP variant of Seraphine, and that's not something that you can easily do from the support position.
As we do get an exchange in mid, but Boss can't find anything. We have kind of very similar junglers here, as you see this Kha'Zix of Redevil step up. Both of them want to start rolling early. They both need that gold, much like Seraphine, which makes it all the more important that is both scuttles going over to Boss.
Yeah, but also Boss has hit level 5 already. I mean, this Seraphine's probably just dead.
Ooh, easy kill. Didn't even need the ultimate. First blood.
What's even struck me as very interesting here is they've actually flexed the Garen into the mid lane. In a matchup where I feel like Garen gets value versus the Malphite, they've said, okay, we play Garen mid. He's pretty tanky, has a lot of sustain. He can deal with the Seraphine poke. And then eventually at level 5, you have that very heavy damage output. It looks like this, I mean, the ultimate's still there, remember?
Yep, still available. There it is, Cut Esports. Now with 2 kills passed over to Boss. And this is very similar to what they tried yesterday, Scoundrel. You were there, where they were popping all these early lane swaps, trying to enable early play through their jungler. It didn't work for Boss on Olaf. This looks much better.
Well, something actually that I noticed about Boss's early jungle pathing is he went for a very, very strong early clear. And actually, there's something you saw him doing was chaining the Gromp and the Blue together. I don't see many junglers do that. And it's actually something that I didn't know was strictly easily possible in Wild Rift, but Boss was able to chain that Gromp and Blue together. So you saw that he hit level 5 considerably before his opposite number, and that allowed him to go for that double scuttle and has accelerated that level and experience gain in the jungle. So he just had a really, really efficient early first clear and is now reaping the rewards because of it.
And because we talk about both these junglers being pretty snowbally, as apparently Nami found to kill down bottom, that's going to have double the effect, because not only, of course, is Boss out ahead, but it's twice as difficult for Redevil to get anything on the Kha'Zix.
Yeah, and I think also you've got to remember that when we come to a pure teamfight situation, they do have that ace up their sleeve of the combo of the ultimates they bring together, the Malphite, the Seraphine, the Varus. It's a very strong teamfight comp, but if you're behind once this teamfight starts, which it is right now,
here we go, in for the steal, doesn't find it. Cutter able to walk away with the dragon, and there is a deep blade caller slicing through the team as 69 finds a kill. Unstoppable Force will go in. Don't Flash trying to find Boss. He gets the kill, but will go down immediately after. A massive Team 5 win to Cut Esports as Off-Meta are slaughtered around the dragon.
Okay, right. TJ, I'm having Scoundrel TED talk.
Oh, no?
Now. Yeah, I know. I'm having Scoundrel. I don't care about that now. I don't care about Seraphine dying randomly to the
all right.
I'm having Scoundrel TED talk right now. Guys.
Okay.
If you have a 5v5 team comp, please fight 5v5 and don't just randomly run in one by one. Their team comp has elements of brilliance, if you combo the Malphite and Seraphine ultimate together, you chain it with the Varus CC, you're locking people down for days, it gives you a lot of space to get work. Why did they run in one by one?
Well, okay, no. Scoundrel, you're playing Malphite. You see an Evelynn, she's got no mobility, you press the alt button.
Yeah, but
there's nothing you can do about it, you're compelled.
TJ, did you see when he ulted? He ulted after his entire team was already dead.
I did see that.
End of the day, I just think that was a missed execution on the team fight here. It definitely feels like Cut. As you can see, they are slaughtering Seraphine right now. It does just kind of feel like Cut have a cut above in terms of how to play this game right now.
And the chains of corruption go wide, so it's now very scary for Trickster as Cut find 2 more kills, currently leading at the top of your screen by 8. And setting up using that player advantage for this Rift Herald. But Esports sending Joe and Babe very far forward to zone off meta. Can't even get close to this Rift Herald. They're just completely split off. The Rift Herald's been picked up, and now you can go for the fight. Joe able to zone off an entire team at the cost of only half his HP. And off meta are still spoiling for a fight here, but there's nothing left to fight over.
I think they had an opportunity there, TJ, to look for the engage. Like, they had the Malphite up, they had the Seraphine ult up. There was an opportunity where they were grouped up around that.
They're all top side.
Yeah, they could have gone for it, but I think a little bit late to the party here. Might be that first tower in the mid lane going down.
Double encore, they're low, Redemption over the top. This could get very scary. Trickster on the top side will fall, and video game in mid will go down as well. And just like that, I think this is very likely the game. Good kill picked up by the Unstoppable Force will save Nemo. But it's a 10,000 gold lead and growing at this 7,000 mark in game 1.
7,000 mark? No, 7-minute mark.
7-minute mark, I apologize.
I knew what you meant. So yeah, this is a very significant gold lead. I was about to mention it, but you can't took the words out of my mouth. We were both thinking of the same thing. This is a very significant gold lead, and I think you can clearly see that Cut Esports have a much better mind focused on macro objectives. Like, The pathing from Boss was really nice in the early game, accelerated his level 5. That's kind of the meta in the jungle right now. That the meta in the jungle is get level 5 as quick as possible, then impact your lanes. And that's what Boss did. And Evelynn, especially if you're not used to dealing with Evelynn or you have problems dealing with a champion that can evade through vision, you have to be very clever with understanding where Evelynn is on the map. And clearly off meta was struggling with that because Boss was able to snowball very heavily. By the way, Stoneplate is a balanced enchant. I'm just letting you know right now, TJ, Stoneplate is a balanced enchant.
Yeah, I could tell that it was balanced because Joe there, he had 4 people shooting at him, and he only took about 10 HP damage. And that just felt really fair to me.
But I agree. I think Stoneplate feels like a very fair enchant, and it's bought. I think people haven't really cottoned on. I'm not seeing it bought a lot in Europe on many
you need to watch some more SEA. Literally everyone builds Stoneplate. It's a little disgusting.
Everyone buys Stoneplate. I'm sorry. My sarcasm didn't come across very well. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's very broken.
Encore will land, but only onto Joe, who doesn't notice. Tidal Wave chews through the team, and this fight is over before it begins. There's 1 kill back over this time as Joe the Tyson finally goes down, but that'll be all. It's a complete ace with a triple kill to Babe as Cut Esports grab themselves a dragon.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you really say about this game? Cut Esports accelerated from minute 2, realistically, and have just been much better at setting up on objectives. It just feels like off-meta are a little bit out of sync right now. They don't quite have the same mind for the game that Cut Esports have right here. And Cut are just able to get onto the objectives, set up correctly, and now they have such a significant gold lead that they are able to out-team fight what is essentially a team fight team. You can even see that Evelynn has gone for a very aggressive enchant in the form of the Proto Belt, just to allow her to get to that back line a little bit more readily, maybe evade certain ultimates like that Seraphine Encore. Just very aggressive stuff. Oh my word, Boss. I mean, you missed everything.
1v3, surely not. Teammate comes in, Joe will take to the front lines, but Boss has indeed gone too far and will finally go down. It took a 2v4, but that was enough, X-Scoundrel.
Yeah, I mean, he did miss everything though, so maybe if he hits his skills, he'll be in a good spot.
My lord. Babe almost got out of that. Will get out of that. Perfect execution takes him to safety, and here comes the backup. Tidal Wave chews through the team and splits up off meta as Joe goes deep. That's 1 HP, no HP on the Malphite. Cut with the Featherstorm will be able to survive. The Blade Caller is poised to kill everyone in front of him, and it'll drop down. Redevil and Don't Flash. Joe is now very low, but I don't think anyone can complete him. He's just going to walk up underneath the turret. Nemo knocks him away. He still finds the kill, getting healed up the entire time by Teemos. They're going to be able to grab the turret and a double kill underneath it, as off meta are once again complete aced.
Ah, man. I'm feeling for off meta right here. You're going up against a very oppressive composition, like a Garen when he's ahead, and Evelynn when she's ahead, and a Kali when she's ahead. These are all champions that if they get that slight edge in gold lead, they do make your life a living hell. And I'm definitely feeling that off meta is struggling to sort of go for these small jewels. We're at a 20k gold lead. This is an AP Varus as well, by the way. I know Hells on the desk will probably be saying, I knew it. I knew the AP Varus was strong, but internally I'm screaming. I
don't know. Okay. I'm going to get ahead of Hells for you. I don't think you can draw any conclusions about Varus from this game, because I don't think Varus got to play.
No. I mean, I think AP Varus has his place in a team comp where you're very AD heavy, because AP Varus is extremely reliant on his ultimate to do the majority of his damage. Otherwise, you are basic attacking like a normal AD carry and proccing your blight stacks, right? And then in that case, why would you not just play a normal AD carry Varus? The Varus that is more popular is the lethality kind of like Manamune into full lethality build, where you just poke with your arrows over and over again. And versus this comp, I actually think I'd prefer it, because this comp doesn't exactly have a great engage. So you're going up against the Cut Esports comp. Yeah.
Where'd the Baron go?
I know. They're just so far. Oh my goodness.
Where'd the team go? Trickster's just gone. And here comes the rest of Cut Esports down the mid lane. Baron buff in hand. Unstoppable force out of Don't Flash won't find the kill as the Featherstorm flies in. Everyone's dead to the Blade Caller. It's just 1 HP on Redevil, similarly low HP on Vidgame. as they run back behind the Nexus. That's a mid inhibitor gone, like Scoundrel.
Yeah, the reason I didn't really call the Balrog is because I think at this point you can do whatever you like as Cut, and it's not going to be that surprising.
It was fast, though.
I mean, they do have a lot of gold, TJ, for 12 minutes into the game. Baron's HP does scale with time.
But it was so fast.
Yeah, I know. Baron's HP scales with time, though, so it's quite early into the game to take a Baron, and they have a lot of gold, so they did manage to melt it very quickly.
It just took me off guard. Oh my lord, he's soloing the dragon and making it look easy. I'm not prepared for this. My brain is just a little broken every time I see the HP bars and the objectives falling like that. 69 won't die there. Almost
no, he
does.
won't, because Joe saved him with the skill button. Joe saved him with the really high skill button, which is Garen's ultimate.
I liked it. It was a really impressive button. The more impressive part to me was that Cut was sitting on Flash that entire time and didn't seem to think it was necessary.
No. I mean, I think he had the Featherstorm available as well. Anyway, there's a kill. This should be end of game here, TJ.
Yep, this should be the end of things. As Cut goes all the way through, it is a very clean affair. I spoke to their team manager earlier today, and he said he was very confident. Felt like his team play was going to show on the stage and they were going to dominate the bracket. And during game 1, I think he's vindicated.
That was quick, TJ. That was a dominant performance from Cut. And I think from the very get-go, it didn't really feel like Off-Meta had a chance to kind of come at them. I think they had one moment. There was one moment in the game where I feel like Off-Meta had a chance, and that was the first Dragon fight. And they didn't play their comp properly. Not that I'm blaming them. Sometimes dragons can clearly be like you have to make a split decision in that moment. But it was only, I think, a cloud dragon. So if I lose it or I have a poor setup and I miss it and I get the engage after the dragon's gone, wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world. I just wanted to see them use their ultimates at the same time, and it might have been better.
Yes, and I think you're right to flame them for pressing the Malphite button at not the right time, and all of that's good. But also, it is worth remembering, Cut had like a 3,000 gold lead before that dragon fight, because of how well Boss played the early jungle clear. Like, that's very impressive stuff.
Yeah, the 3k gold lead is not insurmountable for the team comp that Off-Meta had. Like, if Off-Meta chained their ultimates together, I truly believe they had a good shot at winning a team fight at the first Dragon. But that first Dragon team fight lost. You're going against the comp that snowballs so crazy. All those champions do so well with snowball gold, like the Akali, the Evelynn, we said it as before. They never really were allowed back into the game beyond that point.
What a game 1, Cut Esports. Well, Off-Meta do still have a chance. We'll break down that game 1. And set things up for game number 2 right after this.
Cut Esports putting in some work in game 1. They absolutely dominated Off-Meta. I think there was something like a 30k gold lead at the end there. And I think it was quite unfortunate because Kiernan mentioned it towards the end of the cast. He was saying, hey, there was probably only one time Off-Meta could get back into this, and it was that first Dragon, just because of how well Cut Esports were able to set themselves up. And it started really early in the jungle with that Evelynn, Hells.
Oh yeah, for sure. You could see the Evelynn when she was clearing the jungle with the Grump and the blue buff. She cleared both of them at the same time, and she did almost a full clear. She got level 5 while the Kha'Zix was still busy in his jungle. So while Kha'Zix was in his jungle, she got one of the scuttles, she ganked a lane, and then she got the other scuttle. During this, Evelynn became level 6 and the Kha'Zix was still level 4. And at that point, it was like already the turning point of the game. Like that was already the point of where they were snowballing the game completely.
And it was always going to be really difficult to even contest those major objectives when you are just behind in level. Just Smite's not as strong. You're not going to be able to contest it. Yuko, we started at the beginning of that series by talking a little bit about this Seraphine Varus combo that may come out for Off-Meta. Lo and behold, they locked it in. Why didn't it work? What went wrong for them in that game?
All right, so first off, I would like to talk about Varus. So AP Varus, did had a lot of expectations, but sadly it did not pull through earlier on, was not able to meet his win conditions. And even though he did try to get items in, get farms in, towards the latter part of the matches, Saya's play call as well as the Feather Storm just hurt a lot, to the point that Varus had no other choice but to tank it. Looking now at Seraphine, which was in the mid lane earlier, connecting on what Hell said earlier rather, a level 6 Evelynn, that is a huge problem. You are Seraphine, you are squishy, yes you have roots, yes you have Encore, but if Evelynn just jumps straight at your face, claws you face on, you just have to pray to all of the gods up there.
And another key pick actually we were talking about in the game was just like, how big was the Garen, right? Garen just became an unstoppable raid boss, soaking so much damage for this team. A term that I used in another more local tournament to describe Garen players is insert player name here, Horizon, because it's like a ticking time bomb. Once you get over that point, the Garen is unkillable. Looking at the composition, Hells, was there anything in the arsenal of meta that they could have used to try and take this Garen down?
Actually, no. They picked an Alistar. They chose to go for an engaging support instead of like an enchanter, Janna or Lulu, to save their teammates. Alistar cannot save you from a Garen. Garen is just gonna ult on top of your allies. Alistar is not gonna save you from Evelynn. So they just cannot stop them. You ask me, how can they stop them? They cannot. They really only have the Varus ultimate and the Seraphim ultimate. But what is it gonna matter if they get one shot anyways, right?
So yeah, they just lost that draft, then is what you're telling me, right?
I didn't like the I didn't like the Alistar pick. I wanted to see an enchanter support because they are like an anti-engaging comp. You know, Seraphim, Varus, these are anti-engaging champions because they can easily stop them. But if they get, as I said, one-shotted, they cannot do anything. So they need a support that can actually save them. Braum is one of those, of course. But of course, Braum got banned by Cut Esports. So really good draft from Cut Esports is what I have to say.
So are we expecting any adaptations moving into the next draft, Yuko? Do you think maybe they let potentially the Pantheon slip through this time?
Maybe not. I mean, if you want to hold on to your advantage that you had, might as well stick to your guns or don't fix what's not broken. But to expound on what Hell said earlier, a Janna pick would have been much, much more better. Imagine if Garen is right there in front of you, or you also have a, I don't know, Anakali just there at the sides, just being very scary, the kind of assassin that she is. You can just pop Moonsoon and then everyone else can just follow, can just jump in. But yeah, I guess it's just back to the drawing board for this team.
All right, that puts a nice little bow on game number 1. Let's get ready for game number 2. There you have it. Cut Esports are leading already. They managed to absolutely demolish game number 1. And if you're not careful for off meta, you could end up being down in a big mental hole that you might not be able to climb back off, because it can be quite demoralizing to lose by that large of a margin. It's really going to take some leadership within the team to be able to pull them together and come back for game 2 and start the reverse sweep. Looking at the mistakes from game number 1, Hells, what would you say is the biggest thing that off meta need to change moving into the second game?
Well, definitely the jungle rotation at first. I've already talked about it, but also what Xcando talked about is the way that they team fight. They had a really good team fighting composition. They had a Malphite, Alistar, all these champions that can team fight really well, but they didn't coordinate anything really. And during the whole game, they didn't really coordinate those things. Like you could see the Malphite throwing random ultimates, the Varus desperately throwing his ultimate to save himself. So, you know, it just didn't work against them. And that's what I want to see more of them. Teamwork.
And for you, Yuko, what's one thing you could change for off meta moving into this next game?
All right, so aside from the draft here and there, I would have to echo what Hell said earlier. Better communication, better team fight, because there was this one good move earlier. This was in the mid lane. The moment Seraphine was able to root 2 champions from the sides of their enemies, Malphite did jump in with the unstoppable force, but there was just no sufficient follow-up damage. And I do agree, there were some awkward ultimates here and there, so maybe they could polish that out.
Well, we kind of got rumored that we were going to pick Ban then. I'm hoping pick Ban's ready. So let's go ahead and jump into that one. You can start breaking down the picks as they come in live. So let's hope to see what's happening with that one. Ban's coming in. So I said Pantheon ban, that was taken away last time. I wonder if they're going to let it slip through this time around, And we'll get that information as they start to slip through.
I still don't think they're gonna ban it out though. But if they let it slip through, that's one new champion that they can pick up. Gragas is still gonna be the ban for off meta. So they don't want that explosive cast, no body slam as well. No one to actually just disrupt whatever team fight they have in mind.
Well, Gragas would have actually been a good response to the composition that Cut Esports had last game. So I don't really know why they're banning it again. Because if the Evelynn picks comes in again, Gragas is a perfect counter to the Evelynn. And this time they, again, won't have the Gragas.
Right, so can I just say that I'm so happy that my prediction was right. Still gonna be a Pantheon ban, but this is a really nice adjustment from off meta, banning out that Akali, babe on that Akali. They had a fight in the Dragon lane that he popped perfect execution, was able to get that triple kill, and no one was actually there to reach him at the back lines.
So we got the same setup. The Pantheon and the Braum are banned. Let's now hope that they can actually draft around this, because this is the same setup. They have to draft differently. They have to think a little smarter and pick good picks. And they picked the Camille. This is the best jungler in the game, in the right hands, however. If you can play Camille well, it is absolutely amazing, super strong. So let's see what they can do with it.
What makes the Camille so strong at Hells? Why is the Camille that S++ jungler that we may see?
Camille has true damage. Camille can assassinate targets. Camille can single out targets with her ultimate. She has her third ability, the hook, to just jump over walls, do everything. The second ability to stop enemies from chasing her. She has everything, but it's hard to play her because you have to hit the second ability, you have to hit your hook, you have to hit your ultimate on the right target, you have to time it correctly. It's hard to play, but if executed properly, absolutely like the best jungle pick in the game right now.
Speaking of best picks, one of the best picks in the tournament right now is the Kai'Sa, and that's been locked in for Cut.
Right, alongside Kai'Sa, there is going to be Malphite. So Cut Esports, they would want to get their hands on that Malphite. So I'm actually liking this Camille pick, given that we are now seeing a Kai'Sa. So that's going to be the Hexic Ultimatum, just to isolate Kai'Sa from her teammates or wherever she is. Now we'll be seeing a Galio. So if ever Kai'Sa or Malphite does jump in with the Unstoppable Force, you have the taunts from Galio.
Olaf, Yasuo, these are the champions that I want to see. Like, as you can see, off meta is relying on the heavy CC again. And this is what they have done in their previous games as well, with the Seraphim, Varus, Galio as well. Like, we're seeing Galio and Varus right now. Both of these champions have a lot of CC. So let's see what they responded. And they pick a Leona. They're just going for heavy engage. They have 4 engaging champions. Cut Esports with the Malphite, Evelynn, Leona, and the Kai'Sa. These are all 4 champions that can dive to the backline and assassinate the enemy.
This is going to be a protect the queen composition with Kai'Sa being the queen. But my concern here though is you can just get Mercury Threads to just lessen the time of CC from this Leona. And Rakan, a pretty hot pick yesterday, can literally turn the tables around. Really looking forward to the grand entrance as well as the quickness from this champion. And they finish off this draft with a Diana. Moon falls over the place. A lot of burst for their side.
I like this draft point. These are good picks against the Evelynn. Evelynn is not going to be able to punish these champions as much, right? Like the Galio hard counters Evelynn. Varus could stop the Evelynn. Rakan gives shield to the Varus. See, the point is they actually drafted way better than the last time. So yeah, let's hope they can actually execute it well as well.
Now, last pick coming in, obviously, is the Ahri to round out everything. So that's going to be the draft for game number 2. We're going to throw it over to our casters to get onto the riff.
Dare I say that sounded optimistic, Xscoundrel?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the draft this time round, as Hells correctly said, it's more of the same for off meta. Like it holds the same kind of
wing. I can't hear you currently.
Yeah,
I apologize. I believe the broadcast can hear you,
the
but I
broadcast
can't
can hear
hear
me.
you.
You couldn't hear me. Sorry, guys.
Yes.
I forgot to unmute on our VoIP service. As Hells correctly said, more of the same for off meta this time round. It is a comp that has similar types of win conditions. Oh my god, it's a Diana jungle. But regardless, it has similar win conditions in the sense that they have a strong team fight. And a combo that you're probably quite used to seeing over in Southeast Asia is Camille Galio. It is the Hextech Ultimatum into the hero's entrance. It is impossible to escape that if you're locking down a single target. It is very execution heavy though, TJ. And as Hell said, there was lacking execution from off meta in that previous game. So I'm not entirely confident, but it's not out of the realms of possibility.
My big hang-up is this composition is so easy to execute if you're running a Kai'Sa instead of a Varus, that it really does just feel like they got the rough end of the deal there. Otherwise, though, I think I agree. I think I agree that this is a better look for off-meta. And Cut are going to struggle to execute those team fights this time because it's Malphite Kai'Sa, and that's kind of the core. It's all about the Kai'Sa. As was correctly identified on the desk by Yuko, which means that this Ahri, this Evelynn, these assassin characters don't really fit with the rest of the composition to me.
Yeah, I think. Well, okay. TJ, I'm gonna phrase it this way in the context of the last game. Okay, it didn't matter what the comp was for Cut Esports. They clearly found the edge in areas that came outside of compositional relevance. They found the edge when it came to macro. Okay. They found the edge when it came to rotations. And they have picks that I think actually picks that facilitate the Evelynn a little harder this time, including the Ahri and the Leona. The single target pickoff was kind of what won them and snowballed them the early game. So that's what I'm looking for them to capitalize on with this early this draft style that they've got. They're looking for that single target pickoff and snowball from the laning phase, and that's how they got their win versus off meta previously. I think when it comes to straight team fights, they're probably not going to be able to do the same thing.
Ooh, deep engage there in the bottom lane from Nemo. Not going to result in anything, but it buys some space for Trickster to walk away. Good support play. But also want to identify that it is a better start for off-meta across the board. As we do see a skirmish break out of mid, and the Scuttlers won both ways. It was an even trade on the Scuttlers. Boss did not earn a massive early advantage, though they are currently taking away some Raptors.
I mean, I actually think this is better from off meta in general. Like, they gave away so much in the early game. They didn't get double scuttled this time. Boss hasn't got absolutely snowballing out of control. If you were able to take this to that first Dragon fight, which, to be honest with you, I wouldn't even be bothered if either team decided to pass up on it because it is only the Ocean Drake. Which I know as esports PC natives, TJ, that sounds awful to say, but for Wild Rift, the Ocean Drake is not an
infernal drag.
Yeah, it's not the most impactful in the world. But if you get to a teamfight situation, I genuinely think off meta stand a really good chance here. Like, they've got a strong teamfight comp. We talked about it before. It looks like there's a bit of action in the mid lane though.
Taunt will land, but instantly charmed. Vidgame Donkey is in huge trouble and will go down. First blood again goes over to Cut. And off-meta don't have anyone in the area to respond, but if they had tried to counter-engage, I want to highlight that the bottom lane for Cut had roamed up to make sure that wasn't possible.
Yeah, it was a really good rotation. I'm glad that you highlighted it because you clearly see the team dynamic working here for Cut. They are covering each other every possible opportunity. Gonna be honest, there isn't much to break down here. Vidgame Donkey just went in for a 1v1 versus an Ahri, which felt a little awkward, especially as you know the Ahri has the ultimate up and available, so you're probably never going to kill her.
Anyways.
So it was a very aggressive play with knowing that you're going up against an Evelynn who is not going to get spotted out on the map by your vision control. And Evelynn was just there to punish it. Although I would say Evelynn was very greedy. Boss was very greedy with his ultimate holding there. Ahri took a lot of tower shots and one more tower shot and she would have died. Whereas if Boss had just used his ultimate to secure the kill, he might have been in a situation where it would have been much easier. I love this from Boss. He's doing the same thing again, just trying to balance these two camps together so we can do them at the same time. You don't see many junglers do this, and I think it should be done more often because it is an efficient way of doing these two camps.
We do get our Drake start in the meantime as well. And this is where Boss holding on to that ultimate may make a difference. It is Evelynn's kind of only big escape during team fight, as well as a finishing move. Here's the dive, here's the combo, over the top. Drake will go to Cut, and deep within the pit, the Hextech ultimatum has claimed Boss's live in recompense. Timo's will go down. And in the front line, this is huge damage out from Vidgame Donkey. 69 with the killer instinct, will get away, but still goes down to the burn. And off-meta win the fight, but lose the Drake.
It's technically a win for Cut Esports here because they take the Dragon off the back of it, and it's a 2-for-3 overall. But honestly, the way that off-meta played that team fight, they were playing a little more coordinated. It's like they just listened to Hells and Yuko on the desk, and they played more coordinated. And let's take a look back at it again. Great engage. We have the Galio, the Diana with the Moonfall straight into the hero's entrance and the taunt. The layering of CC made it very difficult for Cut to actually respond. And you can see Cut, without the Malphite there initially, were on the back foot straight away. I think had Malphite been there, had Bebe been there very early on, we may have seen a different team fight take place, because that Unstoppable Force might have been enough to kind of delay that onslaught coming in from off meta. But realistically, what I saw from off meta was much better than we saw last game. The coordination is much cleaner. They're layering their CC properly. You're seeing the strength of these picks when combined with each other in this particular game. It's not getting them a massive lead. They are actually starting to fall behind again in gold, mainly because I think Cut have just got that better hold on the macro.
Zenith Blade?
Yeah, he went in a bit deep there. Oh,
and that means... Oh! The steal happens! Because of the over-aggressive Leona play, there's no CC to deny it. However, the trade is instant. Trickster dies near the mid-turret, Redevil dies on the dive, and off meta have traded 2 of their players' lives in exchange for a Rift Herald. Knock-up, taunt underneath the turret, Hextech Ultimatum. They'll get one of those lives right back over. Off meta, a 2-for-1 trade with the Rift Herald in balance.
I would be hard typing in chat to my Malphite off the back of that fight. He could have just used his ult. I mean, Ahri was tanking the tower anyway. He had his ultimate available. Just slap the ult in the middle of that fight, and Ahri probably gets out of it, and you pick up the kill on the Galio. But regardless,
hold up.
Yes.
Last game you said don't use the ult. This game you say do use the ult. What's the difference, scoundrel?
What ult? TJ, I'm confused. It's contextual when you use your ult. It depends on the situation.
I'll get to you in a moment, as we do have a Galio ultimate coming through. Redevil will melt. That's the power of early game Kai'Sa. And mid game Donkey will walk away. The question I was asking is, what's the difference here? Why is that a good Malphite ult position?
I mean,
we'll see if I even get the chance to answer that as the deep dive comes through in the mid-turret, and Donkey will die. This turret should survive, but kind of found several kills now just across the map.
Yeah, we've got another fight in bot lane, mate, so I'll have to answer you a bit later. It looks like Evelynn just popping off in the 2v2.
Very nicely done by Boss, and the kills continue to roll. We're going to have a roam down here, but I don't think Don't Flash is roaming into a safe space at all, as all of Cut are here. A flash over the wall won't save him, and it's yet more blood to Cut. 30 seconds away from the Drake, with their entire team here to push the wave.
So are you seeing why they pick things like the Leona and the Ahri here? They just exploit mistakes, and these kind of picks are very easy exploiting mistakes. Okay, that was just the engage at bot. You saw the nice engage coming through from Babe, and he was able to capitalize on it with the Evelynn. Not much to say other than you just caught them out with the Malphite ult. But to answer your question, using the Malphite ult in that situation, it is contextual. It just depends on, like right there, the Galio was on like 5% HP under the tower. I can't even remember the play, but they would have been a good Malphite ultimate in TJ, and you just have to trust me.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna ask you to trust me and say that was very bad positioning from Redevil. Walking blind through the jungle, no warding aggressively, and Cut are right to intercept him. And with the jungler dead, Cut will be able to get this second Drake of the game. And despite a much improved early game, our net result has been similar. Now, at the 9-minute mark, there is a truly massive gold lead sitting in Cut's pocket.
Yeah, and again, it has been just through pure abuse of like mispositioning. That was a little greedy from Boss. I think got duly punished for it. Very glad that he did, because it was incredibly audacious. But Cut have clearly just been good at abusing mispositionings on the map. Like there's a lack of vision control in the river area, and I think a lot of off meta are sort of very brazenly walking towards the blind spots on the map where Cut are able to punish them with those individual pickoffs.
A deep dive in here will open things up as the heroic entrance comes over the top. It's a very messy team fight, but all of off-meta seem to have been able to disengage despite it. Here's Trickster over the wall. Flash very aggressively. He finds the kill. 69 on the Kai'Sa will fall despite an early engage from Cut, despite a gold lead for Cut, and everyone on off-meta survives.
Yeah, a little bit, I think, too brazen from Cut Esports in general. Just way too ham on the engages in the enemy jungle. They didn't have the Evelyn. I mean, look at Boss. Look at how
crazy.
bold Boss is. Like, he really doesn't need to be going 1v5. There's no need to do it.
Double taunt! This is crazy! Off meta are going to get another kill, just handed to them as Babe overstays. Joe will be the next, forced into stasis. There's no way you survive this. And they're just walking this Rift Herald all the way up the top side of the map. Boss now cowering behind the turret as the charge is complete. And all the gold lead we were just praising has been eradicated.
Yeah, honestly, that was complete error from Cut. Like, there was no need to kind of overextend like that. Boss, I don't know what Boss was trying to do. He was kind of go 1v5. I mean, it just makes me feel that they think they're further ahead than they actually are at this point in time. They need to take a step back. They need to go back to what was working for them in the first game, which was just good, clever macro control of the map. You can take a look here again. This is the back end of that team fight. It was 4 versus 5 for the most part. I mean, low HP bars all over the shop for both squads, as 6ix9ine does eventually drop. But yeah, at the end of that, Boss went 1v5 and didn't need to do it. And I think that Cut just need to take their foot off the pedal a little bit here, TJ, and just say, okay, get back to focusing on those dragons, get back to just good, clean wave control. We still have a tier 1 tower in the bot lane that hasn't gone down. Let's focus on getting that before we try and go for another crazy 2v5, 3v5 situation.
And I do want to give praise to Trickster, who had a solid performance last game amidst the ruins of a team composition. And this game, it feels like, has been the foundation upon which Off-Meta have built their comeback.
And I think the comeback's not quite on yet. Like, they still have
We're building it. We got the foundation, Excadro.
Yes, and their team fight is better. I mean, we identified it from the draft, as did the analysts. Their team fight is better. The way that their team fight functions as a unit, it clearly trumps what Cut have brought to the table. I mean, Cut, that's a big engage, though.
Big solar flare. Moonfall will catch 3 in response, but already it's Red Devil, Trickster, Nemo, all gone. Cut's gonna clean up the rest. And that's 69 through the back lines. Double kill already. Vidgame Donkey will go down as well. And Cut get a team ace off meta. Shattered right as this Infernal Drake comes up.
I mean, it wasn't a clean-cut team fight, though, was it? I mean, I saw the pun there. I hope you saw it. It wasn't particularly...
I liked it.
It wasn't particularly...
That's a lie. I didn't really like it, Excadro, but I appreciated it.
Thank you. But you can see that, obviously, this is under tower, but you can still see the power of the off-meta comp. Like, let's say off-meta were even in gold here. Let's say off-meta even were ahead slightly. They probably would have absolutely swept Cut in that situation. Cut do need to be a little bit careful about where they select their team fight locations. They're kind of grouping up in areas that is good to get these big Galio taunts, these big moveballs. Diana flashes. I think she's dead.
Ooh. A desperate attempt into stasis. Redevil has no mobility. Will just fall.
Did have flash. Oh no, sorry, he didn't. He literally flashed to try and steal the dragon. They're going to ping Baron here. No jungler available for 30 seconds. It could be a good opportunity to take the big purple worm and look for a game-ending play.
And once again, a 10,000 gold lead in Cut's pocket. They get all 3 drakes. And I do think there are signs of life for off-meta, things to build on, as this game too does look much better. That was a blind charm, okay. But the result looks awfully similar.
Yeah, I think realistically from the outset, I wasn't expecting off-meta to come back into this game, just given how dominant. Oh my, okay, that worked this time.
Taunt will be found. Boss is in trouble, though, as the Moonfall opens things up. Redevil's able to go in and is backed up by the heroic entrance. Redevil will find the kill. A little bit over-aggressive again from Boss.
2 for 1, though. I mean, you take a 2 for 1 with Baron when you're pushing in every single lane right now. That's going to allow that push onto that top lane inhibitor tower. We have that tier 2 being focused down in the mid lane as well. That was a decent play by Boss. I mean, he has got Rabadon's Deathcap, Lichbane, and the Infinity Orb finished up. And that play itself has allowed the map to be opened up. That top lane inhibitor has dropped. The mid lane inhibitor is next on the menu. And I think Cut are looking for that game-ending play. Baron is such a devastating objective to lose, especially when you're behind. And it really feels like Cut are punishing them for it now.
Bot lane is going to fall as well. Chains of Corruption's Trickster is still very, very good here. Will force Joe into stasis. Joe does survive out the other side, and there's the ult in. Unstoppable Force detonates Trickster. And all that looked possible for Off Meta has been shattered once again as Cut break in towards the Nexus. Babe just full focusing it, pulled away by Moonfall. That's a massive ultimate, but it does not save the day. Cut Esports are able to take the series in 2.
I think they probably should have won that easier, or more easily rather, than they were able to. They, I think, just overstepped in a lot of situations. You could clearly see that they were very confident in the plays that they were taking, and I don't think they fully respected that team fight potential and the CC layering that Off Meta were able to put down. And that Off Meta first Dragon fight was honestly pretty good, despite the fact that Cutaway came away with it with the win, having picked up the Dragon. But I think overall, you could just see that map knowledge was better, vision control was better, individual pickoff was better from Cut, and that's really just what won the game here.
Can I be nice to one player on Off Meta, though?
You could be nice to any of the players. I think they had a good game.
Okay. Well, I'll try it out, but for now I want to start small, and I think Trickster really impressed me. I think that was a very good Varus game in Game 2. I think there were even some good moments in Game 1 when they were getting absolutely shattered. I do want to see more from Trickster.
Yeah, I think Trickster's definitely had... I think would love to see him on other champions. I think the mark of a good AD carry is to have some flexibility, but I think it was a good Varus game for sure.
Yeah. All right, well, that's our positivity. Cut Esports do blast forward to the winner's bracket, though, and that has implications for the remainder of this tournament. We'll set things up for the remainder of this day and break down that last game with an interview right after this break.
Well, there you have it. Cut Esports managed to find a way to get themselves the victory here, move on to the grand final. Not as dominant as what we saw in Game 1, but still a victory nonetheless here. And I'm joined by TJ now. He's here, popping in from the game, going to give us some insight and also join us for the next game as well. So TJ, I'm going to come to you first, because there was something you said towards the end of your cast about who impressed you the most. And it's a guy called Trickster. I was wondering if you can explain where your love for this player comes from.
Yeah, I mean, game number 1 wasn't great for anyone on Off Meta, right? They were having a bad time. But Trickster was still, he got, I think, 3 kills in that game and was able to put out a lot of damage during the team fights, which I was looking at and I was like, all right, that's not a bad performance for a Varus in a game like this. Then game number 2, all of the fights they win come from Trickster. You have that really messy fight around the Baron, where Trickster is able to sit at the back, just throw out sustained damage, and then even flashes forward over the wall to win the duel versus 69 on the Kai'Sa. That's very impressive stuff, especially considering the kind of overall state of the game, because at that point they were behind like 5,000-6,000 gold.
So one of the things I want you to take a look at, TJ, as well, before we check in with Yuko, is we have this Dragon fight, the first one that kind of could have gone well for Off Meta. That's loaded up on the drawing board for us. So we're going to pull that up. I wonder if you can talk us through with another view on what's going on here and why it went so well for Off Meta despite everything else.
Yeah, I mean, this right here is the most exciting part of the fight to me. This is where I'm like, okay, I see it. Because there is one thing that this composition wants to do, and it is land the Moonfall, and then follow that up with the heroic entrance. And right here, you can see the dream combo is working. Now, there is an inherent problem with this composition that Off Meta are running, which is that if it works well, and I'll play it forward just a couple of seconds so that you can see it ideally work well, you cluster everyone up in this tiny, tiny space. You can see 2 of the off-meta players are in this single space. And there is a hard counter to that built into the Cut Esports composition. That hard counter being Malphite. So you might be thinking to yourself, all right, well, where's the Malphite to just ult in, land a giant unstoppable force, instantly have 2 people locked up? Well, he's over here. He's on the other side of the map. The Malphite, babe, is nowhere nearby. And so, Cut Esports cannot win this fight because they're at not only a 4v5, but a compositional disadvantage.
And that's a good thing as well, TJ, because they weren't really getting their leads. Well, we were noticing their leads weren't really coming from team fights. The team fight wins for Cut Esports seemed to be like a byproduct of everything else they were doing around the map. Yuko, when we were looking at this in our nice little tidy virtual green room, we were commenting on how the kills weren't massively apart, but when it came to objectives like dragons and turrets, that's where Cut Esports really were cut above. See what I did there? Off meta.
All right, so yeah, I would have to agree on that. One of the things that I noticed is we were expecting Camille to have teleport. So there was this one time that Cut Esports, they knew Camille was at the bot lane and she did not have teleport. So, okay, I guess that's free Baron. And whenever Cut Esports would have these awkward fights or they would tend to be picked off, it's okay because they would always go with the trades and they can just focus on the turrets. 14-minute mark, if you're gonna look back in that game, there were no turrets down for the side of Cut Esports. Just goes to show how much control and vision they have towards that game too. Even though we did say that off meta they were supposed to have a better game number 2.
And this really was, I'm just going to say it, dominance by Cut Esports. I think, like we said, glimmer of hope. And yes, we can talk about star players on off meta, TJ, about who was able to equalize everything out. But at the end of the day, oh, I've gotten some lag on my PGM. Does that come through? Is everyone fine and dandy on your end, guys?
I'm a little bit fuzzy to me, but I can still hear you.
Too.
Yeah, okay, apparently everyone else can hear us still, so I'm just going to keep on rolling with this one. So it looks like... right, unfortunately, it looks like we're not going to be able to get an interview at this time, it looks like. So we are going to have to move... We're going to have to move to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have you our next series of the night.